Hello and welcome back to HEMA Fight Breakdowns. Today I want to talk about the Shielhau, but specifically the base components of a Shielhau and how it can be broken down and be used in a more versatile manner and even from unusual positions like this one. So as a kind of preview, this person is going to throw a Shielhau, this person is going to throw a stab, this person is going to be successful. But the thing to pay attention to is this guard that they're starting in. This is a very unusual starting position for a Shielhau. A lot of times when we learn techniques in HEMA, we learn them from very specific guards against very specific moves. But that kind of rigidity can lead other people to basically know what you're going to do before you do it. What you see all the time is that someone couches their Shielhau up in their high vom tog, their right hands right against their shoulder, their thumbs on the flat of the blade, and you just know that that Shielhau is coming because that's how they learned it in class over and over again. But throwing a Shielhau from this position has a number of good advantages. So, if we watch this back again, and we try to pause it right as it starts to happen, there's a couple of reasons why this guard is good for throwing this particular kind of Shielhau, the low, flat-ish Shielhau that ends with the point. The first is that it's a bit of a bait guard. As you can clearly see, this guard is not really quite a vom tog, it's not quite a plow, it's not quite a Vexel or Iron Gate. It's none of those things. It's basically just sitting down in almost a plow-like position, but with the right hand moved a little bit further off to the side and the sword just off into space. And the reason that this is advantageous for this particular maneuver is because it is opening up the target that you want your opponent to attack. What's open here is a little bit the hands, but mostly this head and upper chest. And that's a juicy target for anyone. So what you do is you open up that target. This person's fencing out a plow. So you know the one thing they're probably going to throw is a thrust, which means your hands are, a little bit safe. Most people don't thrust to the hands. So when knowing that, what your plan is to do the base mechanics of the Shielhau, which is you're going to take the shield of your blade, which is the part that protects your thumb right here, and you're going to sweep it across your body line, pushing your opponent's attack out of the way and then delivering the point. In this case, the point, you can also deliver the cut sometimes. But the reason this works is because the blade is out here to the right side, it's in a perfect position to sweep from the right to the left. Where most people couch us up at the top of the shoulder, it has to come forward first before it can then sweep across the body, which takes up a little bit of extra time. So it's a little bit shorter to move. As you can see here, it's a little hard to tell because of the camera, but if you look very closely, you can tell that the right hand is sweeping from what was basically the right hip across and extended forward, which deflects the opponent's tip off harmlessly off the left shoulder while clearing the center line for this thrust right here to the center of the chest. But there's another advantage here besides just the bait and besides the short kind of motion that you have here. And that is the fact that this meets your opponent's blade much sooner and in a very advantageous position. When people couch their Shielhau, again, typically up here, they're trying to typically engage with their opponent's point as close to the top of the sword as they can without skipping over the tip and, missing completely. The idea being that if you engage your enemy's tip with the middle or the strong of your sword, you're going to have a superior point of leverage, and the small amount of force, the relatively small amount of force you're putting into clearing your opponent's blade is going to pay dividends. But what you want to watch carefully here is where exactly the blades make contact, which is right here. This is where the blades make contact, and this is not the same kind of ultra advantageous bind that I think a lot of people are looking for in their Shielhaus. And that's because the other feature of this particular modification of the Shielhau is that the crossguard is not turned completely 90 degrees. Normally when you throw a Shielhau, especially again from your shoulder, it starts off at 90 degrees and it rotates 90 degrees in the direction that you're sweeping your body. And the reason for that is it helps kind of power that defensive motion. If you, again, imagine that you have something on your shoulder and you extend your right hand forward and put it in front of your left shoulder, that 45-degree angle you're taking is putting force forward and it's putting force directly to the left. So that rotating force of your hand is helping add a little bit of extra oomph to that. Because this doesn't have that, the oomph instead isn't focused on displacing the blade to the side and getting in line with the left shoulder. It is focused on getting a high point of contact here and then levering over and down. So again, if you watch where the hands travel, they start a little bit low, right about the level of the ribs. And as they come forward, they again push a little bit to the left into the center of the chest line. And then most importantly, look at what this backhand does. It levers up. And the rule is as your left hand moves up to the same plane as your right hand, you're dipping your tip down a significant margin. So you get the best of a few possible worlds here. You engage in the bind here, which is still a middle to weak. So that's still a pretty decent leverage bind. You're still pushing up with your cross guard, which is going to give you the defensive advantages of something like a cron, which is basically interrupting the forward momentum of this person's blade because they made a little bit of a mistake and didn't have their tip completely in line with their shoulder. You see there's a little bit of a V here. And because that, the cron pushes the blade up as the sword itself pushes his blade over to his right side, this person's left side, clears out the center line, and right here, right as the thrust is about to be delivered, you are basically in a perfect position for a thrust in opposition, meaning that you're thrusting directly into someone else's force, and because you have the superior straight direct line, straight from shoulder to elbow to wrist to sword to tip, you're going to take that center line and you're going to win that thrust every single time. Most of the time, you don't even need much forward momentum. They're going to impale themselves half the time. So if we watch this again at full speed, you see the bait, you're waiting for them to commit, and then the second they do, you punish it. So that's going to be it for today. If you'd like to see your own footage featured on the channel, feel free to send me an email over at HEMAFightBreakdowns@gmail.com, and I hope to see you next time.